Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host, Andrew Bobo, is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. So, welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast. I still have the man cold because it is exactly 1 day recording after the last time y'all heard from us, but through the miracle of pre-recording and post-editing, y'all are hearing this a week later. So, bear with my nasaliness. I promise by the next time y'all hear from me, I will hopefully be either dead or better, one or the other.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say. Phil sounds like he has a frog in his throat, and his left nostril feels like he's had napalm poured into it all
he's
night.
Crying.
But,
he's crying about it.
Dude, man cold is a thing, I'm telling you. Women do not catch the same cold virus as men. I'm convinced of it.
No, women just keep pushing through. The guys are just like, oh.
Well, that which it may be. Since we're starting off talking about my man flu, let's talk about what's going on in China right now.
Well, actually, I do want to address one thing before we get going, and that's prepper camp.
Oh, yeah, we do need to start
I want to start that off. If you are going to prepper camp, or if you're thinking about going to prepper camp, tickets are on sale now. So head over to preppercamp.com, check out their tickets. The tickets for 2024 are on sale. You need your ticket in order to get a campsite. So once you get your ticket, you can then contact Orchard Lake and put in for a campsite. So just wanted to put that at the top of the show. So,
yep, and the tickets are as cheap right now as they are going to be. Traditionally, the ticket prices creep up closer to the event we get. And Rick and Jane have sold this event out every year that we've been going that I'm aware of. So don't wait to the last minute. You will be upset with yourself. You'll kick yourself in the butt, and you'll miss out on the opportunity to meet the two of us and Mrs. Matter of Facts, because all three of us will be at Prepper Camp this year, hopefully down in the vendors area again, doing interviews, meet and greeting. It'll be a good time. Y'all really don't want to miss this.
Yep. So, all right.
And
now
even
on
if you
to
don't,
the news.
I was going to say, and even if you don't care about meeting us, because, I mean, we're just two loudmouths with majestic beards, I might add. You know, there's still Rick and Jane and all the subject matter experts and all the classes and all the networking. I mean, it is a really, really good event. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, there is a playlist for Prepper Camp 2023 that has, I think it was 8 or 9 interviews you and I did. Between the interviews, the morning shows, and all that, it's all there in one playlist. And, like, that's what we did the entire weekend. We just killed ourselves over the mic. So watch that. It'll give you a good kind of flavor for what we do at Prepper Camp. I'm hoping that if I have my other bestie, my wife with me this year, that maybe I can get her to, like, you know, when she breaks away from the booth a little here and there, she can go catch some video of classes, and we'll have extra content to kind of help promote camp.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously with just two of us and the recording schedule we wound up agreeing to, that was not going to happen. I don't think we left the booth except for bathroom breaks and food.
Yeah, it was fun. But anyway, get your tickets. So
get your tickets. In the meantime, Chinese pneumonia, COVID 2.0, or something else. What in the hell is going on? I would say in China, but this has already spread into Europe, and supposedly there's cases in the U.S. now too.
Yeah, so China's been seeing an uptick in pneumonia in children lately, and it's getting bad enough to where the WHO, which, I mean, we all trust with our lives, because they know exactly what they're talking about. They basically, I mean, they've come out and said there's no evidence of international harm, but I think they said that about COVID as well. But yeah, so I mean, there's a big uptick in pneumonia in kids, and it's spread. It's spread over to the UK, and also there have been some cases and are upticking cases in Ohio and Massachusetts. Just saw a big uptick, but the thing about Massachusetts, they're saying that it's just because it's that time of year kids are when they see an uptick with RSV in kids, so they're kind of putting it towards that. But everything I've been seeing about China is it's an unknown pneumonia, unknown. Like they can't say what if it's RSV. They can't say if it's like if it what pneumonia. Like they can't say they're not saying what it is, and they're being very cryptic about it.
Kind of like they
Which
always do.
they with COVID, yeah. So, but with this, I mean, joking around. I think I joked around with you a couple days ago was get your toilet paper now, because if we know if anybody learned anything from COVID, the first run is going to be on toilet paper, which should happen soon if it does happen. But no, I'm kidding. Hopefully, people learn their lessons and they're stocked up. But
I don't think anybody learned their lesson from last time. I think those of us that were like strapped in and ready for all hell to break loose are still strapped in and ready for all hell to break loose, because that's what we do. And I think all the lemmings are just following the lemming in front of them off the cliff.
yeah, so what?
I hate to say it that way, but like that's just the point of view I've come to.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there are some countries that are already actually saying people like I have it right here. It says um, they're advising elderly, very young, and those with poor immunity to avoid travel to China. So again, this is just another one of those things that it's popping out in China. I mean, the biggest thing though is this China. Like they're so, if you look at some of the cities there, they're so pushed together. It's crazy.
I
But
mean, an extraordinarily high population density, if history has taught us anything, is just a recipe for a friggin' mass outbreak of anything, because it's impossible to get a separation when people are living on top of each other in high rises. The other problem you're running into with China is that, like, China historically is going to be very unwilling to share information with the rest of the world. So, I mean, if COVID taught us anything, it's that we can depend on the Chinese Communist Party to tell us exactly nothing if it is in our best interest or against their best interest. So, if this is just an outbreak of pneumonia, they're not going to tell us any different. And if this is another escaped bioweapon, because that's what COVID was, and anybody that wants to disagree with me, go on ahead and get the pitchforks and the torches, because that's what happened. Even our own government now agrees that's the most likely scenario. They're not going to tell us that. And if this is a side effect from something that was administered to their population a couple years ago, they're not going to tell us that either. So I look at this situation very similar to the way I did during COVID. China is a black hole. There is no information to be found in that entire country. They're not. Nothing that comes out of that country is trustworthy.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like my supposition about honesty is like virginity. Once you convince me you're a liar, I don't believe anything you ever say ever again. Because it sounds funny, but I mean, being serious. Like, if you lie to me one time, I will always question what you tell me from there forward. Even if it sounds true, I'm still going to question it. And China, not the Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party, fall into that boat.
Yeah. And so, I mean, so one of the article, I found an article on Reuters that basically says like the experts, and I'm using quotes for experts. For those of you who are listening, I'm using quotes.
Got to put the air quotes.
Experts for quotes. Basically, they're not necessarily concerned. They're chalking this up to the ease up of the COVID restrictions. Basically letting people out of their house and not controlling them as much. That's what they're chalking this up to, is basically everybody's mingling now. And so they said they saw similar upticks with sicknesses, different sicknesses as different countries released their population back into the open world. So they're not really concerned about this, but I mean, it is it's that season. It's time. People have been getting sick. I mean, I know a lot of people that are constantly sick. You're sick.
Case in point.
Yeah. So, I mean, a coworker of mine texted me yesterday and was like, "Yeah, it sucks on your day off. You catch something." And it sounds like his daughter was sick and he caught whatever she had. Luckily, I don't have any kids, so I haven't been catching any of this crap.
Yeah,
But
my wife works as a school teacher. She has like 300 kids.
they're little petri dishes, man.
Dude,
They are.
they are little adorable walking germ factories.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, though, is I mean, the reason why we're talking about it is it's something to just watch. Anytime that you see a large outbreak of anything, and I don't care what country it is, you should take it seriously in a way to where you should just sit there and, okay, if this does jump, if we do have a COVID 2.0, what can we do to prepare for it, and look at it now and start? Because I mean, I when COVID first came out, and not to like backtrack back then, but when COVID first came out, I'd watch the map and I could see the flow of it going around the country, going around the world, starting from China, going around the world. And it was like, okay, so when it does get here, what, because it's going to be here. And that's the thing is with especially RSV. I mean, it's so common among kids. They're saying that pretty much almost they're saying pretty much any child under 2 years old has probably had this at some point. And like they're saying that it's so common now. So it's just one of those things of just CYA, stock up on some bleach stuff, stock up on some disinfectant stuff, just so you guys can just disinfect, especially if you have kids, disinfect backpacks and stuff like that when they get home. I mean, you never know what, you can't be too safe with certain things. And I mean, I'm not saying like scrub them down in bleach every time they get home from school or whatever, because you can't protect them 100% of the time. But just you can prepare your household to try to be, you might have to wipe things down. It's flu season. I mean, I've been wiping. I mean, I'm single and I live by myself, but I still have been wiping down counters, and I'm, like cleaning a little bit more than normal, just because it's like, okay, well, I don't want dust to get in, because dust can affect you if you start sneezing, and allergies and all kinds of stuff. So just take those precautions. It's that time of year. So
I also think it's worth pointing out that, like, don't ever discredit how much damage and how much assistance you can give to your own natural immune system by making sure that you're getting sufficient vitamin D from being outside, sufficient fresh air. Make sure you're not vitamin deficient in anything. I mean, a lot of people kind of joke and sneered at that during COVID, like, oh, you think vitamins will protect you from a virus, but it's freaking true. Like anybody with a fifth grade understanding of biology understands that our immune systems are constantly fighting off bacteria and viruses from outside of our bodies on a literal constant basis. It's how it works. If we had no white blood cells, you would be dead inside 24 hours, because the bacteria on your skin and in your own body would kill you immediately. So, like, I think there's something to be said that if you are overweight, if you're eating a lot of crap, if you're vitamin deficient because you're eating a lot of crap, if you're eating a lot of sugar and a lot of things that cause inflammation, you stop all that, you take better care of your body, you go get some exercise outside in the fresh air and some sunshine, you would be freaking amazed. This cold is the first time I've been like legitimately sick in a very long time. And it's purely down to the fact that my wife and I have lost a substantial amount of weight and been taking better care of our bodies. I mean, my
yeah.
wife used to get sick literally monthly because she works at a freaking school, like that's just a recipe to get the sniffles every time you turn around. But she doesn't get sick anywhere near as often as she used to. And again, I look at it as we did all this work to take better care of our bodies, and we're not getting sick as often.
Yeah.
Convince me that's a coincidence.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that's the thing is I've been getting back in the gym, and I'm down 10 pounds now, which is a start. It's not nearly what with you guys, but I've changed the way I ate. I've been eating. I've changed more to like the paleo diet, high meat intake, high protein, less carbs. But yeah, no, I mean, I've changed the way I ate, and I feel great. Like I actually feel a lot better. I still get it every once in a while, but since I've started changing the way I ate, my acid reflux went down. It's still there because I'm still fat. Like I still need to lose weight, but it's went down a lot. So
here's a question for you: did you have joint pain before you started all this?
a
Like
little
knees,
bit,
hips,
yeah,
back?
a little bit, yeah,
Has that been getting better?
a little bit, yeah. I've noticed since I've lost 10 pounds, I still have a lot to go, but I've
But
noticed
here,
the knees and stuff like that. So
but here comes the question. Here comes the question there is no real answer for. Obviously, if you're dropping your weight, it's going to be easier on your joints. There's no
mhm,
debating that. But there is also evidence that eating a lot of carbs and a lot of sugar and a lot of processed food increases inflammation in your joints. So
mhm,
by going towards this kind of quasi paleo diet you're talking about, where it's like, let me guess, lots of meat, lots of eggs, staying away from carbs, cutting out sugar,
yeah,
all that is also reducing all the sources of inflammation you used to be consuming all the time.
mhm,
So it's kind of like which one's doing the work? Who knows? I think they both are. But I know
mhm,
that like from my perspective, before I changed my eating habits, I was having issues with my right hip, which has been a problem since like my mid 20s. Like I was told when I left the military that a hip replacement was in my future eventually. Like there's no way
mhm.
around it. It was already making noise at 25. So there was no future for me with that hip. It was going to have to be replaced eventually. I was just trying to push it out to like my 50s and 60s before I had to suck it up and get it done. I had reached the point in my late 30s where when I would get out of bed in the morning, my hip would pop loud enough to wake my wife up sometimes.
Hmm.
Since I've done this dieting, and I'm down to like 227 as of this morning from
Nice.
255. I started 255 at the Matter of Facts camping trip that was this past April. The heaviest I was prepper camp the previous year where I was 262. So from 262 down to 227. And yeah, my hip doesn't pop anymore. Doesn't
That's
hurt.
good.
My knees don't hurt. The worst I get
Hmm.
is I get a little bit of stiffness when it's cold, but
Yeah.
that's it.
Hmm.
So whether it is the weight or the lack of inflammation or both, I don't know. I am the. It sounds like this really crunchy hippie thing about treat your body like a temple, but I'm going to tell you, I'm a believer.
But
If you stop eating crap, your body starts to heal itself.
yeah, but we're not on a workout show, so we digress. So
But we
anyway,
but
the
we
biggest
are
thing
on a
though is
but we
the
are on a
big
prepping show, and if you
yes.
don't take care of your body, it's not going to take care of you.
Well, but that's the thing though is going back to the RSV and the sickness and stuff like that. Yes, this does affect primarily the elderly, children, and then people with weak immune systems. But with it being just the cold and flu season as it is, just take care of yourself. Get back in the gym, sweat it out if you have to. But start eating better. Start eating better. Start going for walks like what you and Gillian do, and and everything. And you'll see a big. I mean, you'll see a big improvement on your health, especially if you get sick uh, all the time. You'll see a big improvement. So
Yep.
I bet.
If you could start off if you could start off by cutting any amount of highly refined sugar, so anything that's high fructose corn syrup, cut that out of your diet and start by walking 5 miles a week.
Hmm. So
Just do that. Now, when I say cut high fructose corn syrup, I mean that's going to be soft drinks, that's going to be a lot of stuff you're eating right now. But if you just do those two things, I promise you, you'll see a difference very quickly.
yeah, yep. So, but yeah, take care of yourself. That's all I gotta say about that, though.
Yep. GOSAFE needs to go
So
down.
yeah, so this
What,
was introduced actually last night by
somebody that is the reason why tarring and feathering needs to be brought back into style.
that was a joke. No, it wasn't. I'm just kidding.
For legal
Um,
purposes, that was a joke.
yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, what this is the Gas Operated Semi-Automatic Firearm Exclusion Act. Basically, if it's gas operated, they want it gone. So
So
instead of saying assault weapons ban, they're saying they've rebranded. So they've decided, well, no, people, we can't use assault weapons. The assault weapons ban that's getting struck down. No, so they rebrand it, call it something different. Same, exactly the exact same thing. It's just different. So what were you gonna say?
I have questions about
Well,
this.
yeah. You want me to
So
keep
like,
going?
uh, yeah, go ahead.
So
Go
so
ahead.
I'm
Keep
on their
going.
website, and so let's just read about it a little bit. The Go Safe Act regulates firearms based on the inherently dangerous and unusual lethality of their internal mechanisms. So apparently, their internal mechanisms make them more deadly, not the projectiles that come out.
I'm holding
But
my comments until you're done.
yeah, please.
Parents, you might want to hold your kids' ears for this episode.
Oh, come on, you'll be fine. As
No, I
opposed
don't
to
think I will be.
focusing on cosmetic features that manufacturing can easily modify, and if enacted, the bill would regulate the sale, transfer, and manufacture of gas-operated semi-automatic weapons by establishing a list of prohibited firearms. That's what they always do. Preventing unlawful modifications of permissible firearms, mandating that future gas-operated designs are approved before manufacture, and preventing unlawful firearm self-assembly and manufacturing, which ghost guns, stuff like that, which we can get into too. So, really quick, I want to say specifically exempt our single shot rifle, shotgun, or handgun, breech loading rifle, shotgun, or handgun, smooth bore rifle or handgun, which that, I mean, I guess we're going to have muskets now or something. Muzzle loading rifle, shotgun, or handgun, bolt action rifle, shotgun, or handgun. Lever or pump action rifle or shotgun, and single or double action revolver. Regulated detachable magazine with over 10 rounds of ammunition, any unlawful modifications, and get this, machine gun conversion devices. So
That are already highly regulated.
yeah. So on their website, if anybody's actually at all interested, just type in GOSAFE Act. But on their website, they have a cool little flow chart that's, is this firearm semi-automatic? Yes or no. If it says no, sale, manufacture, and transfer of the firearm is not regulated. And then then it goes through, and if it says yes, 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 does the rifle or shotgun have a permanently fixed capacity of 10 or less? Does a handgun have a permanently fixed capacity of 15 or less? If no, sale, manufacture, and transfer of the firearm is regulated. And so exemptions include 22 caliber rimfire or less, bolt action rifles, semi-automatic shotguns. We already covered that. So look at this. This protects Americans' Second Amendment right. It's literally on their website. The GOSAFE Act protects Americans' constitutional right to own a gun based on a firearm's established use for self-defense, hunting, or sporting purposes. The GOSAFE Act accomplishes this by including exemptions based on a maximum ammunition capacity according to a firearm's individual class, a rifle, shotgun, or handgun. The capacity must be permanently fixed, meaning the firearm cannot accept a detachable high-capacity magazine that would increase the number of rounds that can be fired before reloading and makes reloading easier. So what's funny, though, is in the bill text, so can you guess if these firearms, if this stuff is so dangerous, don't you think that they would like, hey, we don't want it for anybody. Like nobody can have these firearms at all. They're so dangerous. We need them. They're weapons of war. Again, quotes, weapons of war that are only for the military. Guess who is exempt?
Police officers.
Police officers are exempt. So they can have them. But the common person cannot because they're so dangerous that the common person can't handle them. But a police officer who, I mean, I've seen cops with negligent discharges. I've seen accidents. I mean, cops are just accident prone as the individual. They're exempt. So, what were you gonna say? Do you have something to say, Phil?
I have so many things to say. So let's start with parents.
I'll give you 5 minutes.
Parents, hold your kids' ears. What in the hell does the internal operating of a firearm have to do with how lethal it is? Because best I recall, a 22 bolt action will penetrate a skull just freaking fine all by itself. Second of all, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of friggin', single action society or freaking seen somebody run a lever action in anger, but you can get a hell of a lot of ammunition on target real fast with one of those, and that is specifically exempt by this freaking law. And while we're on the subject, I know these people, okay, we said it before the show started. I try really hard. I have like a base set of principles I live by. I try not to assume malice when stupidity will adequately explain somebody's behavior. I have tried really, really hard to assume that maybe, just maybe, the difference in my opinion and these idiots might have to do with a lack of knowledge, or might have to do with a misunderstanding. Maybe, just maybe, if I could find the right set of words to get across to them, we could bridge the gap and meet in the middle, and they could see my point of view that these weapons are very, very useful for self-defense purposes. But no, I think I've just reached the point at which I am so far past giving these freaking dishonest, lying bastards 1 freaking inch that they are lying, they know they're being dishonest, and their outright attempt is to ban or regulate out of existence the majority of semi-automatic firearms in the country, period, end discussion. Andrew, can you think of any semi-automatic rifles that are not gas operated? Because when this hit yesterday, I sat down and tried to think about it.
Oh no, it takes away a lot.
Well, okay, like my wife's friggin' Remington 74 auto, I think that might be recoil operated. Maybe. But this bans almost all of them. Almost. Or it turns the entirety of the country into frickin' California, which has worked out swimmingly, by the way, because their violent crime rate is through the frickin' ceiling. And the last I checked, whether you get your head cracked open from a frickin' somebody hitting you from behind, or you get shot, it ends up being about the same trip to the emergency room.
So,
see, the reason why this pisses me off so bad, at the end of the day, after all of that is said, after the fact that this bill is just freaking dishonest on the face of it, that the attempt to ban commonly used firearms is so egregious and so obvious, the part of this that pisses me off the worst is the hypocrisy of it. Because of course they have to exempt law enforcement, and of course their own security details have to be exempt from it, because God forbid any of these freaking people who are so dead set on the civilian population not being able to defend themselves, God forbid they have to take their chances with everybody else like we do. They get to keep their protective details. They get to keep the guys with the friggin' scary black rifles. They get the full auto rifles, the SBRs and the cans that we have to beg the government's permission to get. How dare they live in the ivory tower while they demand that we live in the slums in terms of firearms rights? That's the part of this that pisses me off the worst.
Yeah,
because show me a politician who says, I think firearms are the devil, I want to ban them, I am eschewing my Secret Service detail. I do not want guns around me, period, in discussion. I still think he's stupid, but at least now I have a tiny little shred of respect for him, because he's putting his money where his mouth is. And if he gets assassinated, I guess he proved his points that guns really are the problem. But it's the ones who try to ban guns but cling to their own. That's the part that pisses me off the worst. That's the part of this that makes me lose my crap. Because until I have a Secret Service agent or a police officer posted in my front lawn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, paid for by tax dollars to make sure me and my family are safe, I don't want to hear a word about that scary black rifle behind me. I don't want to hear a word about it, because the police aren't the ones defending this house. I am. Okay, Andrew, my blood pressure has stopped just short of the point I would have a stroke. I have a meme that I've been saving for just this occasion when you cooked a really good 4-minute long rant out of me. The floor is yours. What do you think?
You kept it under 5 minutes. That's okay. I am drawing a freaking blank on the rep's name from Louisiana who likes to torch people on the floor.
Oh, there are so many.
Oh, isn't he? Well, I thought he was from Louisiana. No, not Kennedy. I don't remember now. He's bald. His glasses. Isn't he from Louisiana?
Yes.
Look it up.
Clay Higgins.
Yeah. So,
but do you know his backstory?
No, not exactly, but we don't have to get into that right now.
Let me give you the short version. It makes him so much freaking cooler. Before he went to Congress, he was a sheriff's deputy down here, and he literally put out a PSA ad on the local television, basically challenging any local gangbangers that wanted to get into shootouts with cops. Bring it. We will stitch you up and send you home in a bag.
Nice.
This guy has a reputation down here in Louisiana of being freaking Old Testament law enforcement. Like, if you are polite, you pay your taxes, you stay out of trouble, he's cool with you. Like, even amongst his local constituents, he has a reputation of being a very fair law enforcement officer. But his reputation is also that if you try to hurt people, if you try to hurt kids, if you do dumb stuff, if you commit violent crimes, his officers are greenlit to deal with you.
Okay. So anyway.
Anyway.
Is he your rep or no? Who's your rep?
He's not, unfortunately. My rep is nowhere near that cool.
Well, what I was going to say was we need to, because I feel like he'd be the one to do this. But I feel like need to write him, even if, I mean, I guess he doesn't really even have to be your rep to write him, but write him. And I want him he needs to do a bill that basically says, if you are a person that is protected by any kind of Secret Service, if you are protected by police, the campus police, in DC and all that crap, if you are at all protected, have a protected detail at all, and you submit one of these bills, you are directly affected. This applies directly to you. Like, that needs to be, I don't think it won't go anywhere. But it's just one of those things where it'd be nice to have somebody submit a bill that says, hey, if you do this, you get this. Like, it directly affects you. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, I want to really get into, before we move on, I want to get into the penalties of this. Because in the writing, in the text, it is actually, in the text, it specifically says that there will be a gun buyback program, which I don't understand how they can buy back something that the government never owned.
The federal government, I don't trust the federal government enough to sell them a firearm. Sorry, just can't.
Yeah, right.
They've demonstrated that they're psychopaths in the past, and I'm just not comfortable.
Exactly. So I'm pretty sure the federal government would actually fail a background check if those actually did anything, but they don't. They just background. It's a backdoor registration. But anyway, so anyway, the penalties include, let's get all past the mumbo jumbo legal crap. Whoever violates subsection V or W of section 922 shall be fined not more than $5,000 and imprisoned not more than 12 months or both for each offense. So each gun. So go through your safe and in your head and tally up how many years you'd be in prison. Whoever while in possession of a gas-operated semi-automatic firearm in violation commits or attempts to commit any other federal offense punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year shall, in addition to the punishment provided for such offense, be fined no more or not more than $250,000, imprisoned a term not less than 2 years and not more than 10 years or both. So, yeah, that's interesting.
So just to really piss off some politician out there, just me thinking out loud, do you know how simple it is to bypass that law?
Pretty simple.
Yeah, to everybody with an AR-15, take your handguard off, remove the gas tube, and then thread the gas block for a small Allen-headed plug. And you just converted your AR-15 into a straight pull repeater. No gas operation, no problems.
Yeah. So
matter of fact, I can make a nice little living making a kit for that with a tap handle and a tap and the right size Allen headed plug. That might be a business opportunity.
There you go. Yeah. So this is something that I don't think this is going to go anywhere. But I mean, it's something to keep an eye on because they're these ridiculous laws, these ridiculous bills and stuff continuously get brought up, submitted, and all it's going to take is the majority to flop. And we'll get into that here in a second because the elections are right around the corner. So this kind of stuff, that's the thing is don't forget about this kind of crap going into the elections because I'm not saying like vote a certain way, but if you vote normally how you would, or if you vote and if you're a Democrat and you love your guns and stuff like that, that's great. But if you look at what's on the table, I can tell you right now, if the Democrats get both chambers and the presidency again, I mean, there's this kind of stuff that could get passed and get through, and it'll get signed because it will. Like, I mean, that for some reason, Republicans as well, like Republicans, as far as, I mean, there's some of them that are the rhinos that, yeah, they're hell bent on. They say they're pro gun, but they're not. But both sides are hell bent on taking away rights of the people. And I don't understand why. It's crazy to me. And it's crazy to me that people cannot understand that. They can't see that
There's a
both
meme
sides
for this.
are, what's up?
There's a meme for this.
I'm sure
The
there
only
is.
reason the government will want to take your guns is because they're about to do something you would shoot them for.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's the thing is, I can't stress that enough, is both sides want people to, they want to take rights away from the people. It, for some reason, it just seems like right now the Democrats are hell bent on taking away the right of self protection, the self defense aspect of it. So it's crazy to me. And so remember this going into election season, and let's try to make it so it doesn't happen, because I would love to. America is, if you look at the world, and you can see the downfall of a lot of these countries, and you see what happens to the citizens when firearms get stripped away from them. You see it all the time, and it's so history repeats itself, and it will happen. So it's going to be crazy. So, but we've been winning some. There's been some court cases in the works that have actually been going in the favor of the 2A, and basically the ATF has taken some hits on the chin, which is always good, and but and that's the thing, is if anybody's been paying attention, especially with the frames of receivers rule and stuff like that, the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit seems very pro-gun, very, very. I mean, not even necessarily pro-gun, but they seem very in tune with like the constitutionality of some of this stuff that's been getting handed to them, and they've been striking stuff down.
Reed O'Connor in particular, because he's the judge in the Fifth Circuit that a lot of this has specifically come out of, but he seems to be much more of, in constitutional terms, much more of an originalist. In other words, like, this is what the document said. This is what's written in the document. There is no reinterpreting it. It means now what it meant then, yada, yada, yada. Originalist as far as constitutionalist. But he also seems to be, from my point of view, very unyielding on the idea that legislation should come from the legislature. You know what I'm saying? Like that from my point of view, reading through his opinions, that seems to be a lot of his aggravation, is the fact that if Congress had legislated this, I think he would uphold it. Because his point is, that's the legislature, their job's to legislate. My job is not to rule on constitutionality. Let the Supreme Court do that. But in instances where a 3-letter agency has just dreamt it up and shoved it through, that seems to be his frustration. Yeah. From my point of view, at least.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, the Fifth Circuit has been like, they put I believe a stay on the frames and receivers rule. They basically blocked it, saying, hey, no, we're going to do a nationwide injunction, all kinds of stuff. And then the ATF basically was like, no, this isn't right. They cried to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS, even though, and that's the thing though, is like, it cracks me up because the left cried hard when a conservative majority took over SCOTUS. That doesn't mean anything, really, in my eyes, because if you look at some of the stuff, especially with the frames and receivers rule, SCOTUS sided on the side of the ATF, and they said, yeah, the Fifth Circuit, they can't really do a nationwide injunction, but here you go, ATF, here's a win. So the rule went back into place. And so now it's happening again, especially with the pistol braces is moving its way up to SCOTUS. Bump stocks, I believe, again, is going up to SCOTUS. And then what was the other one?
Assault weapons ban from Illinois.
Assault weapons ban. Yeah, sorry, my brain like farted on me. Yeah, the assault weapons ban now. Another one has just been granted, or has just been pushed in last night, actually, from the Illinois assault weapons ban. Has been pushed up to SCOTUS to block the ban from going into place, so that it can proceed through the rules. So it can basically proceed through the courts, because the BS crap, the crap that sucks about these rules that the ATF does, and some of these laws, is that the law or the rule goes into place. The citizenry are supposed to abide by the law or the rule, and they're supposed to abide by it. Why? And it's in effect all the way up until it gets basically dismissed or it gets thrown out in court. That to me is crap, because if it's getting challenged in court, it should not go into effect. Like, it should not. I should not have to abide by a unconstitutional law. And honestly, if you look at the Illinois Supreme, or if you look at the Illinois bump stock ban, what they have, like 0.0% or 0.01 or something, or 0.1% compliance rate with everything that's going on with the rules of that, which it makes me happy that people are not complying. And that's the thing. So that's my thing is, while this stuff goes through the courts, it should not be enforceable at all. Like, whether you comply or not. But if you get pulled over or something happens and you get some hardcore chest beating trooper that wants to really, and he's hell bent on stripping people's rights away, if he sees you have a gun with a pistol brace on it, it's in the courts right now. He should not be able to take you, arrest you, confiscate your firearm, or do whatever it is because you're breaking a law. Which honestly, it shouldn't even be a law, because the ATF cannot legislate. They cannot legislate at all. That's where that's the thing is, this is where I was really upset with Trump, was because I really feel like you and I, when the Las Vegas shooting happened and Trump was like, ban the bump stocks, do all this other crap, and the ATF rewrote the law, or rewrote the rule, like basically taking redefining a machine gun and including bump stocks and all that other crap. Like, to me, he opened up the floodgates. And I remember you and I talking about this, we talked about how he's doing this, and it's going to open up the floodgates, and this is going to get worse. And it has. And I really feel like they took that precedent and they just ran with it. And so now they're doing it with everything.
I mean, I did literally say at that time that this is not going to end well, because if we let Trump slide on this just because he's on Team Red for the moment, this is going to end poorly. Because if you allow this precedent to go unchallenged, sooner or later someone's going to make the argument that, like, short reset triggers, lighter triggers, anything that allows you to fire 2-round semi-automatic faster, and let's leave it at that, now makes that weapon a machine gun. How incredibly dangerous of a precedent is that? Because you and I know enough about firearms to know that, I mean, you could get to the point where putting in a friggin', like, taking an AR with a 6.5-pound trigger, putting in a 5-pound trigger, that could be interpreted as being a rate increasing device. And that was the specific language they were trying to use at first, was a firing rate increasing device. And I said it years ago. A couple of people said it. A lot of y'all out there in listener land said, bump stocks are not the hill I want to die on. And the thing I've told people over and over and over, I said it about bump stocks, I'm saying it about pistol braces, I'm saying it about everything. Pick a hill. We'll get to it eventually. Because this doesn't end. This doesn't end with just bump stocks. This doesn't end with just pistol braces. This doesn't end with the thing you're sneering at because you don't think it's a big deal. This ends with just civilian disarmament. There is no end point for this effort that is not full disarmament, because no other end point makes sense. And as a result of that, that's why I am in the boat of, if this isn't the hill you want to die on, pick a hill. We'll get there sooner or later. But by the time we get there, by the time the Fuds are in the streets screaming and yelling because their bolt-action rifles with scopes are called sniper rifles, and those are getting regulated too. By the time we get there, y'all are going to have a real hard time convincing the guys like me who were begging y'all to get on our side about bump stocks and about pistol braces and about AR-15s to meet y'all in the middle, because the rest of us are going to be kind of pissed about the whole situation because we've watched the 2A community fight amongst themselves for all this time, when what we should have done was pull our panties out of our collective butt and fight these people.
Well, and that's the
Just
thing
saying.
is, this is a time where I really feel like the gun industry, and I've said this before, the gun industry is divided. It's so divided, it's stupid. And you got people who are like, well, $2,000 AR or $2,000 rifle, or it's not good enough. And you got people who are hell bent on, well, if it's not a BCM and or Noveski or whatever, pick your brand. And so our community is so divided. I mean, what's that saying? Like, to get
United
divided,
we fall.
yeah.
Or united we stand,
United
we fall.
we stand, yeah, divided we fall. That's exactly what's going on with our community, with the 2A community in general. And this is a time where we need to get together, and we need to band together, and we need to fight this as a whole. Because whether you are a person who likes or not bump stocks, but if you're a person that likes ARs, or hey, you know what? I don't have a use for an AR, but I have a bolt action rifle, I have a shotgun, I have a muzzleloader, stuff like that. Eventually they will come for your gun, because the thing is, though, is when they keep going to the military use, all this other stuff, and these guns that the military should only use them. Pretty much every freaking gun, or every like style of gun, has been used by the military in war. Every gun has been used. It's a war. What?
So funny story, since we started this off talking about the operating system of a weapon making is so dangerous. Yeah. Andrew, would you care to levy a guess how many people were killed by Mauser or Kar 98 rifles in World War II? Millions? Millions?
A lot.
Okay. The literal design of the Ruger M77 hunting rifle that's in my safe right now is not dimensionally, but it is functionally identical to an old school Mauser from World War II.
Yeah.
So like just the 1911 I have in my safe is functionally, if not dimensionally, identical to what they were issuing doughboys back in World War One. Like this idea that, well, it's military grade or it's for the military is just asinine, because a freaking a sash shooter, a chubby guy dressed up like a cowboy on the weekend shooting with a bunch of his other chubby cowboy dressed guys, not throwing shade on my sash shooters out there. I know a few of y'all and I love y'all to death, but stick with me down this road. But that lever action and that side-by-side coach gun and that single-action revolver were once weapons of war. It's a stupid argument. It's a stupid argument made by people who don't know a lot about firearms or firearms history to people who don't know a lot about firearms or firearm history, because weapon of war sounds scary. But again, a 308 out of a bolt-action hunting rifle and a 308 out of an AR-10 do the same thing when they hit soft tissue.
Yeah, I mean, 175 grain shoots the same out of an AR than it does a bolt action. So, so that's the thing, is we need to band together. We need to become a united community and fight this head on. I mean, donate to FPC. If you believe in the NRA still, I guess if you want to donate to them. For some reason, they're still the one that scares the anti-gunners. I don't know why.
GOA has been doing a lot of good work
too. But GOA local. If I need to. That's my big downfall. Is I donate to the FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition, but I need to look more grassroots. I need to donate to some Michigan stuff. Look at Louisiana, look at whatever state you're in, donate. It doesn't have to be much. You don't have to donate a ton of money, but if you can throw $50 at them for the year, okay, that's $50 more than they had. But start donating to them. They do a lot of good. And I mean, I know the FPC and GOA, they're going ham on a lot of these laws. The FPC is constantly their printer, printer go burr is basically
lawsuit
what they,
printer go burr.
Yeah. So
and
that's the thing.
I make it a point not to often recommend any one specific organization, because I have organizations I specifically do not recommend But the ones that I intentionally don't recommend, I just give everybody this same standard. Who's doing the work?
Mm-hmm.
If you have an organization that is out there pounding pavement, filing lawsuits, screwing with politicians, screwing with the ATF, doing their jobs, then I think those are the organizations that need and deserve our support. That's why I always point out GOA, FPC, Second Amendment Foundation, National Association for Gun Rights. I see those four doing work, and I don't see NRA doing work, which is why I don't recommend the NRA to anybody. The minute they start doing something other than sending out cheap, chinchy, like Chinese made range bags and begging for money on the phone so that Wayne can have another suit, I might actually recommend them again. But until they do work, I just don't care. FPC,
Mm-hmm.
those four that I recommended, those are the ones I tell everybody I don't recommend any one of them over the others. I just say look into them. Look at the issues that are important to you and tell me who did the work in those areas. And that might be the one you need to look at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
judge an
So,
organization based on their efforts, not on their rhetoric. That's the only thing
mhm.
I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, because that's the thing though is we got organizations like the FPC and stuff that are fighting for us, because you have stuff like you have basically like the Seventh Circuit, and this is one of the things. This is
Jesus
one of the
Christ.
reasons before we kind of start wrapping this up a little bit. If I can get Phil on another rant, that'd be nice.
I've already had two this
Twofer,
episode, Andrew.
well,
Do you want to
three.
go for the record?
Yeah. So basically, the Seventh Circuit, and this is kind of what's been able to push the assault weapons ban in Illinois. This is what kind of gave the green light for the Illinois assault weapons ban, and this is now why it's getting pushed to the Supreme Court. Is the Seventh Circuit basically came out and says that the AR-15s fall outside the quote unquote bearable arms, and so therefore it's not protected. They state the judge itself. The judge states that was it Diane Wood? I think it was what her name was. She basically states that the AR-15 is not in common use, and so therefore is not protected. Which what was the number that we came 22.4 million? Is that
No,
what the
no,
number
no.
was?
Let me walk you through what Google says. So, first of all, for context, Google says there are 76 million
Mm-hmm.
rifles in circulation in the United States of America, of which 24.4
24.
million, almost a third are AR 15s specifically. Not even like SIG MCXs or friggin' like AKs or any other similarly functioning gas operated semi automatic rifle. Just AR 15s is a third of them.
Yeah.
And the next article down, just interesting little tidbit, AR 15s are responsible for less than 3% of homicides in the US.
Well, that's the thing is if you look at actually I did have it pulled up and I closed the tab, but basically I found it was breakdown of the firearms used in the last shoot I think it was 1980 something to 2023 October 2023. They broke it down. Handguns handguns greatly outweigh any firearm used, any firearm. And so that's what if you want to get into that argument of why are they so focused on the AR-15? Like that's what cracks me up is if you look at their focus, if they really wanted to focus on crime, if they really wanted to focus on stuff, they'd really focus on handguns. They'd really focus on stuff that would actually stop crime. In reality, they don't want to stop crime. They could care less. If you look at some of these cities, they're actually releasing people from jail. They're not arresting for certain crimes anymore. And on top of that, they're putting people back on the streets, and they're not enforcing some of this stuff. They're actually not coming out. What is it in Illinois? They just passed it was the purge laws, what they call it, as people were calling it, because like there's certain things that like was it kidnapping and stuff like that. Like the cops they wouldn't come out for it, or if you did something I can't remember exactly what it was now, but there's certain laws, there's certain things that they were like, yeah, we're not going to arrest you, but we're going to give you a ticket, and you have to come to court. You're supposed to come to court for this kind of stuff because yeah, a criminal's going to do that. A criminal's going to walk himself into court and do that. No, but that's what they want is this kind of stuff. And I mean, there's actually oh god, it's New Mexico, man. It I wasn't planning on bringing this up, but there's a mayor that is in the hot seat because apparently she sent a gangster to go talk to somebody who's been criticizing her. Like, okay, that's highly illegal, but this person, they should be able to defend themselves. Well, what are they going to defend themselves? A pistol. I mean, like, and that's the thing. It's crazy to me that pistols are the most commonly used firearm in crime, or just in firearm deaths, but yet they're going after the AR, which is a minuscule number. Why? If you ask yourself why, because
theory.
Well, let's hear your theory because it probably lines up to mine.
Well, my theory is that the reason why they're so fixated and fetishistically concerned about AR-15s is because the useful idiots, are scared of them. The people pulling the strings that really understand the endpoint of the agenda here understand that the AR-15 specifically, but gas-operated semi-automatic rifles represent enough of a firepower advantage within a bearable arm, because that's literally what a bearable arm means, is that you can carry and utilize it by yourself. I don't know how the hell you get to the idea that AR-15s fall outside of that definition, but let's go there. As to enable a person to resist tyranny. And like this is where I'm happy to say that the hardcore Second Amendment community has largely come around in the time that like I've been loosely involved in it, because like I can remember a time, and you and I have talked about this, and I will not name names, and I will not make smoke or trouble for people who, did not want to associate with me at that time because I was the crazy one in the group. But like there was a time when a lot of people in the Second Amendment space didn't want anything to do with me because I was the one saying, yeah, everybody should be able to have machine guns and rocket launchers. Like the NFA should be struck down. We should ignore unconstitutional laws. Like that was me. And a lot of people in the Second Amendment community were very upset about that and were very uneasy about the idea that, well, we have to be law abiding. I'm like, but if the law tomorrow, if a law got passed tomorrow that said turn all your guns in discussion, would you turn them in, or would you say the Second Amendment says this, that has to trump this law you wrote?
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, the idea is that there's a legal concept in play here that to me has always been the crux of the gun argument in the United States of America. There's a legal mechanism or a legal theory called mala prohibita, mala in se, meaning something is illegal or something is bad because it is illegal, basically. I passed a law that says this is bad, so it's bad. And the mala in se says something is intrinsically evil. In other words, like, even if I didn't pass a law, most people wouldn't do it because they understand it's just understood to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Murder, crimes of a certain nature. I don't want to say the word on the podcast in case there are small ears around, but crimes against people's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are naturally understood to be intrinsically evil by the majority of the population. And even if there wasn't a law against murdering people, most of us wouldn't do it because it's not right. But then you get into gun laws, and you get into the situation we're in Illinois right now with a less than 1% compliance rate. That is mala prohibita versus mala in se demonstrated, because the state said it's bad, and the people, very obviously, because they didn't turn in their guns, said screw off.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, is always the back and forth here. The Seventh Circuit is trying to get their head out of a noose by saying that AR-15s fall outside the definition of bearable arms, even though you can obviously pick one up by yourself and handle it. A freaking 8-year-old can handle an AR-15. If you get on YouTube for 5 minutes, you can prove that theory freaking demonstrably wrong. They are absolutely in common use because fully 1/3 of the rifles in the United States of America are AR-15. So if that's not common use, I don't know what the hell is at this point.
Right.
The argument the Seventh Circuit is making, again, let's say for the briefest of moments, I think this is a knowledge gap. This is a lack of knowledge. The judge just got it wrong. But the things they're saying are so easily, demonstrably incorrect, factually incorrect. I don't think they're stupid. I think they're liars. I think they know they're liars.
Well, I honestly, I don't think they care about the truth. I think it's an agenda. and that's all it is. And the agenda is for disarmament. But yeah,
I mean, it's either for disarmament or in the interim, it is about laying the finger on the scale to make sure that the state always has more ability to use force. Like all this time, we're having this argument about whether or not civilians can have gas-operated semi-automatic firearms. We're totally overlooking the fact that the state, whether we're talking about local, state, federal, law enforcement, military, you name it, all of them fall into this boat. They all have an infinitely greater amount of firepower at their disposal than the average civilian does.
mm-hmm.
Most of your cops running around here have got freaking like full auto friggin' M4s sitting in their friggin' trunks that I can't have without having to go get my government permission slip and then spend 25 G's on a transferable one. They got it given to them.
Mm-hmm.
So like that at the end of the day is my issue. Understanding that whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with me or not, you're allowed to. I just think you're wrong. But the truest intent of the Second Amendment was to ensure that we, the civilians, the population, the people, would always have the ability to tell the government no.
Mm-hmm.
This I am not comfortable with. This is an abbreviation of my rights. And it would always give us the ability to say no, loudly and violently if necessary. And I don't believe we are at the point today where we need to violently say no to the government, but I don't think that time will never come either. So our relationship with the government is always one of we have to have the ability to keep them on the straight and narrow. Otherwise, there's no incentive for them to stay on the straight and narrow. And that's what the Second Amendment is. Well, these laws all seek to do nothing but make sure that we put our finger on the scale, we decrease the firepower available to the civilians such that the firepower available to the state is high enough to squash any resistance.
Mm-hmm.
I see it that way. You can see it differently, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's insane. I don't know. It's crazy because sometimes there's things that legislation gets put up. Some of these bills, and I look at them. I'm like, what are they thinking? Like, I don't do not understand the thought process behind this. And that's the thing is, and that's why I always think about it. I think about it as an agenda versus stupidity. Yeah, there are some, especially when you watch them debate and they talk about pistol braces and how pistol braces actually increase the rate of fire and how, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, but that's the thing is that's where it'd be nice to, through our show, through PBN, through just the community in general, we need to start educating people to show them that, hey, this is not like these aren't dangerous. Like, yeah, they're intended to kill. Like, that's what a gun is intended for. It's intended to kill something. But I mean, whether you are in self-defense, and that's the thing is, and that's what I really wish they would track, which is almost impossible to track. But the cases of self-defense with a firearm, I really wish that there was a better way to. They're saying it's at least like I think 200 or 300,000 times a year, if not more, that a firearm was used in self-defense, whether it was pulled or just basically someone grabbed, they basically brandished a firearm and it deterred a crime.
And
like that's a use of self-defense with a firearm.
And the thing is that you only have statistics for that to track if it was actually reported.
Right.
So like
sometimes they weren't.
If I'm a civilian and a criminal tries to roll upon me and I pull my gun out and he runs off, he's definitely not going to report that he tried to do something dumb and somebody pulled a gun on him. So if I don't, that goes uncounted.
Yeah.
So I personally feel like I don't even want to get drug into the argument about, well, the statistics say or there's this many, because they're going to bring out their own statistics that contradict it. At the end of the day, what it really boils down to is it's a very simple precedent where the people in this contractual agreement we the people have with our government, where we consent to be governed by them. And that's an important point. We consent to be governed. They consent that we have a right to keep and bear arms that shall not be infringed. And I look at it as if you, the state, want to rescind the agreement, you have to rescind all of it. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to rescind the Second Amendment, don't be too surprised when the people rescind their agreement to be governed. That's just the way this works. Like we are not a nation that it has been ruled by a king. We are not a nation that has been ruled by a dictatorship. We are a nation that is willfully abrogating some of our sovereignty to the government. We are consenting to be governed. And if you want to govern us, you have to honor the agreement, which is the U.S. Constitution. And if you throw that out the window, the whole thing goes out the window. And then the only thing between us and the state is angry people and propaganda. Just
Angry
saying.
people and propaganda.
That's what we should have named this episode. Matter of fact, I could name it Angry People and Propaganda, but it doesn't really fit for most of the conversation, just the very end.
So, wrapping this up, I want to throw out a meme here because it's really funny. If I can do it without screwing up too much.
Just don't hit end recording or leave studio. Those are the two things.
Ah, crap.
Don't play with my emotions.
So this is a classic meme because they bring up one of the arguments that you always hear from the anti-gun crowd is it wasn't what the founding fathers intended. That you did not have the AR-15s back when the Constitution was written and all kinds of crap. So I feel like this was a very fitting meme or whatever to end the show. So for those of you listening, own a musket for home defense, since that's what the founding fathers intended. 4 ruffians break into my house. What the devil? As I grab my powdered wig and Kentucky rifle, blow a golf ball-sized hole through the first man. He's dead on the spot. Draw my pistol on the second man. Misses him entirely because it's smooth bore. I mean, I just gotta laugh at the whole smooth bore because they have that in the text of the GOSAFE Act. So, draw my pistol on the second man, misses him entirely because it's smooth bore and nails the neighbor's dog. I have to resort to the cannon mounted at the top of the stairs, loaded with grape shot. Tally ho, lads! The grape shot shreds 2 men in the blast. The sound and extra shrapnel set off car alarms. Fix bayonet and charge the last terrified rapscallion. Bleeds out, waiting on the police to arrive, since triangular bayonet wounds are impossible to stitch up, just as the founding fathers intended.
I mean, if that's the direction we want to go, I just need somebody that can weld. I have a buddy that can weld. I just need to make a cannon.
We know somebody who makes cannons.
Actually, I think they went out of business.
Dang it.
Yeah, I have not been able to get a hold of John, but their website's down. Their social media has changed. Like I think he shut that business down.
Dang.
Which is kind of heartbreaking because
But we still know somebody. Who makes cannons.
I mean, I know multiple people that are into weird stuff and have the ability to 3D print and weld things.
Yeah. So anyway, basically wrapping up the show. A lot of crap going on. Watch your butts with the new flu and or flu season and the RSV and the pneumonia coming through. And go research this the GOSAFE Act. Judge for yourself whether or not you want to support it. I hope if you're a gun owner, I just hope in general, if you're a person who enjoys your rights as a person, and for everybody else, you're against it. I don't care if you're a gun owner or not, but it is nothing good, and I hope it doesn't go anywhere. But it's not anything good for us in the two-way community. And just as a community, we need to get together. We need to start coming together, and we need to stop fighting amongst each other of the Gucci crap of the day. We need to get together, and we need to vote accordingly. And I mean, there's a lot of gun owners out there. Whether you are 80 years old or 12 years old, well, you can't vote when you're 12 yet until they make that rule. But whether you're 80 years old or 18 and you can't, and you can vote like your freaking rights depend on it, because they do. So,
yeah. And I would also say that what we desperately need in this community is to hold our elected officials extraordinarily accountable. When they do dumb stuff, we got to call them on it, even if they're on our team, especially if they're on our team or they think we thought they were on our team. And we need to start making it very clear, even in the primaries, that we gun owners are a voting bloc. I don't know that we necessarily need to become a single issue voter like I am, but definitely need to start making it very, very known to our local politicians and state politicians, and certainly federal, that if you vote against our interests, we're going to vote against you. And once we set that line in the sand, it needs to be enforced. But
Yep.
Matter of Fact's podcast heading out the door. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, get some freaking fresh air and sunshine if you want to survive whatever COVID 2.0 super flu is coming next. Vote like your life depends on it, because it just might. And we'll talk to you in a week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.